I'm Morton Rosenbaum. I was at UC, and it would keep you out of the Army and let you stay in school, quote, as long as you're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they pulled more and more young men out of wherever they were, and pretty soon I guess I was the only young man for 100 miles around. But they finally got to me, and I went in. Went to Fort Thomas and took a test, and everything was a test. What do you know? What can you do? And I didn't know beans about anything. I was a rash kid. And from Fort Thomas, they sent me down to Miami Beach, Florida, which was a terrible place to go because all you could do was swim and splash in the ocean and go to town and whatever, go to the ice cream parlors and whatever else, and you slept in a nice bed at night and you had air conditioning, whatever else you wanted. I had a friend who went to Fort Hood, Texas, and he complained about having to stand in a line 2 blocks long in order to get an ice cream cone. So I was content down in Miami Beach. Well, after a while, they decided Miami Beach was too good for me. So, still in the cadet program, I took something called, what was it, the civil and something education, and they sent me up to Kutztown, Pennsylvania. Kutztown had Kutztown State College in it, which the use of college was ridiculous, but they taught the teachers in Pennsylvania how to teach. And that's why the teaching profession is in such bad shape today. It was more like high school than college. And after Kutztown, we had about 6 months there, which was nice because we wouldn't get shot up in the war. We went to navigation school in San Marcos, Texas. And we flew all over Texas and used our navigation skills. When I say skills, we learned Tonopah, Nevada, where I got introduced to my crew, our crew, and a B-17.
Do you think your time in the military changed you as a person?
Yeah, it was a B-17. And we flew all over the southwest of the United States, getting acclimated to 25,000 feet in the air and firing guns and the sound of an airplane and what have you. And then they switched me to a Liberator, the B-17 and a B-24. The Liberator is a B-24. Was known in the Air Corps as heavy bombers. They carried, I think, something like 8 tons of bombs. And we still didn't know what they were going to do with us. We had a crew of 10. I was the 10th man. I was the navigator. We had a pilot, a co-pilot, an engineer, a rear gunner, a front gunner, and 2 waist gunners. And did I mention the bombardier? I guess I didn't. And that was bombing the poor old natives of New Guinea who didn't know what the hell was happening to them, but bombs were dropping from the skies. And after about 3 or 4 of those bombing missions, they sent us up to a place called Samar. We flew from Nadzab, hopped up Mindanao, the Japanese were not very strong. We weren't too worried about them. They were pretty well worn down. This was April of 1945. And we were active in denying gasoline to the Japanese. They had none of their own. And that was if you knocked out the gasoline, you knocked out their war machine. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
They couldn't fly their planes. They couldn't move their trucks, etc., etc. So we bombed the oil production in Borneo that the Japanese had taken over, Tarakan and Balikpapan and places like that. Then we went up to Samar and flew all over the Pacific. We went up to Okinawa, we went up to Taiwan. We bombed every place we could find. We went to Palawan, we went to Borneo, we went to New Britain, we went to, I'm trying to think of a place in New Britain where at one time it was such a hot spot that our group had a 94% casualty rate.
Wow.
It's easy to get hurt.
Yeah.
What rank were you in the military?
The only thing I can tell you is I was lucky that the war in the Pacific had wound down. We were all prepared to go up to Okinawa and bomb Japan in about 2 weeks when Mr. Truman dropped the bomb. And the war was over. I flew back in the B-24, almost the same way I came over. We stopped at Guam and you name it. We flew back to Sacramento, and from Sacramento they shipped me to Indianapolis, and I got out of the Air Corps.